Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show, where we are going to be talking about how you can grow without paying top dollar for new talent, which is, I know, a big problem that a lot of people are facing, particularly in the kind of climate that we're in now. And to do so, we have a fantastic guest, which is Anastasiou, who is the MD Pertemps of Professional Recruitment, which I know Mike's going to introduce. But hello, Andrew. How are you doing today?
Oh, very well, thank you, Kirsty. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Oh, sorry, we've left him out. Mike, how are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Mm,
Remember me? I'm the talent for good. Oh, no, I'm not, am I?
no, not today.
Hi, Mike. Hi, good
Yeah,
to see you. Thank
I am
you for
good.
inviting me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. I was so keen for you to come on because we were talking about this subject, weren't we, offline some weeks ago? And you said, well, we're talking about, one of the biggest problems now is getting people, getting good people, getting them in the business and making that business trog along. And you said, well, it's optional, yeah, I don't overpay. I'm a bit like Arsene Wenger, which I know we're going to talk about in a second. They say, I don't overpay, but I get top talent. And you were telling us some of the things that you've achieved with this group of people that you've assembled. So last year you were voted top performing agency within the network group of Pertemps, which has
That's
quite a few
correct.
companies in that.
That's right.
You
Yes.
yourself won Agency Recruitment Leader of the Year, and that was Recruiter Award. So that was a separate kind of national thing. But what struck me, I mean, that's fair enough, but what struck me, and the fact that you'd said it was your team that had done that, really, the team that enabled that. What struck me was that in 5 years, you've gone from 0 to £40 million turnover business with 55 staff and a very low turnover of people. You don't get much attrition. So clearly, whatever strategy that you're using to attract and keep people bloody works. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was interesting, when we did have that initial conversation and we talked about how I keep my talent or how I even recruit my talent. And I spoke to you about Arsene Wenger, and being a huge Arsenal fan, it was the obvious thing to say. What was so important for us really was to create a structure where we felt that we could really entice quality talent into our business. And the way that we did that was really by really illustrating our values to the outside world, and to be able to try to recruit people to understand the integrity that we have as a business here. And it was pointless us pretending to be this football team, for example, like Arsenal was, and trying to recruit these individuals into a dressing room at a top dollar price. Because what it would do is also just cause an enormous amount of headache within that changing room.
Just on that, then, I mean, that I'm not a football fan particularly. I'm a Wolves fan, so obviously not that much of a football fan. But Arsene Wenger, he didn't overpay, did he? He'd got his little structure, and that was it. That was the deal.
Because
he went there for the reasons.
That's right. Because what he talked about Arsenal as a history. He talked about Arsenal as a club that has been around since the start of the Football League, and about the values and the core values, that family values that it had. And what it talked about was the kind of passion that it had in terms of what it wanted to do. And I believe that players were attracted to him and his philosophy, his leadership. He had a vision. He changed football in the United Kingdom like no other has. And there are new managers that are coming along now who are trying to do things differently. But he was the first of many who actually brought along different changes, not only in the way that people train, but the way people ate their food, and really the whole outlook around football. Thierry Henry was a nobody before he joined, really, Arsene Wenger in the way that he actually performed as a football team. So it was very interesting for me to look at that and not to pay top dollar. Thierry Henry came into the team, as many of the other Arsenal players, at a sensible salary, not these champagne Charlies that are currently wanting £500,000 to join Manchester City.
I think there's a lot there to unpack, actually. I know we're going to dig into that and turn that analogy into recruitment. We're going to convert it over into recruitment to say what you did in that space. But one of the things that interests me about what you just said was that Arsene Wenger really wasn't trying to attract anybody. He was trying to attract the right people for his side, for what Arsenal was trying to do. And so therefore, if somebody did steam in, it was, no matter how good they were, asking for the big bickies, if they wouldn't fit into his structure and buy into his mission, what he was trying to achieve, then they weren't welcome. So it really was a selection process rather than, yeah, come everybody, you know, there's a space for you here. And really, that's what you've kind of done in your company, haven't you, in the 5 years that you've run it?
Absolutely. And we've taken that mantle on board. And that, you know, when someone comes to look at us, we want them to see who we are. We want them to understand what our values are, what our mission statement is, what our direction is, what our leadership is about. Winning the Business Leader of the Year is obviously a fantastic accolade for us as a business, because it wasn't just me, it was my team behind me that helped me to achieve that. And if people from outside can see that, they can go, wow, look at this business, look what they are trying to achieve. And that's the kind of individual I want to attract. I want to attract people that are going to come into the business, that are going to want to be here because of the values that we have and the direction that we've got. You know, we've got a dynamic workspace here. It's an incredibly friendly, supportive atmosphere. Our managers are very accessible. That, for me, is what I hope people would want to come and work for, not because they're earning these big top dollars.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
I was gonna sort of jump in here because I feel like now look, we've got a question from somebody called Luke, who said, as an Arsenal supporter, while you had a great ethos, Arsenal was very established, so the company that they were working for was big. If you're, I'm taking a vague insult here, Luke, about the Wolves thing. I'm just, I know what it is. I know what it is. But I think essentially what Luke's asking is, if you're an established company with a reputation, it's easier to get those kind of staff. So if you're either newer or perhaps less well known as a general thing, how are you supposed to start attracting people then? Which is, I know, what we're going to start talking about.
He could have said Reading, couldn't he, or something like that? He said
Birmingham.
Could have done. That's a really good question. Do you know what was really interesting for us, Luke, was the fact that I'd worked in previous businesses, so I had some history as well. And I was able to attract a lot of people from my own connections to come and join me when I first started the business. Not many, but enough for us to be able to kick the business off. But subsequently, since then, you know, what we do in terms of the way our marketing department use social media to drive talent to come towards us, really, we talk about who we are and what we're about. Once we actually manage to hook those individuals and get them to come in, they can actually see for themselves who we are and what we're trying to achieve. So I can appreciate and understand that it does take a bit of time, especially if you're starting out as a business, to be able to attract that top talent. But I think it's about, once you've done that, and if you can, is to then try and then illustrate to them what we're about.
Do you not think, though, that if you're just one man band or one person band and you're sitting in your office, there's only you and there's a telephone and a laptop, if you've got a clear mission, that you've got a clear idea what this business is going to do, you've got a set of values, which are rules really that you intend to work by, and anybody that comes to the business, you work by those rules. You've got a vision, in other words, what it's like to be an employee. Let me describe what it's like to work here. And you've got a set of very clearly defined goals, which are milestones on your journey to achieving the mission. I don't care whether there's one person or 101 people. If they're well defined, they will attract people. It doesn't matter. It's like, come and join me, and there's only me, but look, this is what we're going to do, is very attractive, I think, to some people.
I couldn't agree more with you. And that's the cornerstone of what we built Pertemps Professional Recruitment on those values and on those mission statements. You know, we talk about values, and everyone talks about value. We believe in the values, when actually we actually adhere to those values. It's very easy for people to sort of talk about mission statements, direction, strategy, and it's too easy for companies to do that because it might be the right thing to say. But I strongly believe that we live and breathe that. And I think if you were to talk to my staff, they would say that as well. They all understand where this business is going and the direction it's going into. So that energy, that fulfillment that we have can be felt by an individual when they come to see us and they talk to us and they understand what we're about. We're incredibly transparent in what we do. And therefore, I think that's an important point.
Yeah, and sort of on that, Andrew, we before we were chatting, and a big problem that a lot of people have when they're attracting staff at the minute is, as we mentioned at the beginning, that there's a lot of money being thrown around to attract staff. People are chucking money at attendees, and that isn't something that you have sort of gone into, you've not gone involved in that space. And one of the things that I think is fascinating with what you do is your salary structure and how it works. Can you talk a little bit about what you've got with your salaries when it comes?
Absolutely. Well, our salary structure is actually transparent. Everybody within the business knows what everyone earns up to director level because it's a clear career path. So their career path is mapped out on our career pathways. The salary structure is there for all to be seen. The targets in which to achieve the next level is there to be seen as well. So people can work towards that. And I think that's a really important point, because if you don't have that transparency, then you don't know when the person comes next to you, whether we as a business have paid that over the odds to bring someone in, because what we're not going to undervalue our staff. We value everybody that's in the business. And we feel that if you've got the expertise and the knowledge, the passion, the drive and the commitment to stay within us and to hit those goals, then you have every right to go to that next level and to become a director of that business. So for me, bringing in outside talent at top dollar doesn't make sense to me at
So
all.
let me just drill down on that a little bit, because I think this is going to resonate with quite a few of the listeners for today's show. Is that there's always this belief, and I see it a lot from my clients. I want to get the star, get the big biller in, because that's going to transform the business. Well, A, they're really hard to find. I mean, they just are. There aren't that many of them. B, they normally come with some kind of sacrifice. As you say, they want to blow your salary structure out of the water. Their demands are greater. And if they go, they're going to hurt you, because they're going to take a big chunk of their business, your business with them. So if you're not going for those big billers, right, what are you looking for? Who are you trying to get into the business that you can attract with the idea of mission, vision, values and goals? What kind of person are you looking for?
It's really interesting, because recruitment is a people's business. So we recruit people. That's what we do. We don't recruit those individuals who come to us and promise us that they can deliver X amount of cash per week, per month, per year. We're more interested in the individuals that actually has got the drive and the energy and wanting to be with us within the business. That's who we hope to attract, and that's who we do attract. And then we train them to where we want them to be.
So you are looking for, then, just to be clear on this, because this is a really important point, I think, you're looking for that potential, as Kirsty just flashed upon the screen. So you're looking for attitude, because you can't change attitude. It is what it is. You're looking for work ethic. You're looking for the ability to and desire to change, to actually get better and want to get better and respond to any training or coaching that you might give them in a positive way, and want to really max out their potential, whatever that might be. Absolutely. That's what you look for, rather than somebody who can bring in, £300,000 worth of fees every year.
Absolutely. You're right, Mike, you're absolutely right. You know what? And to go on from that, the pandemic has actually helped in that philosophy, really, because everyone's attitude towards work has changed enormously. There's no longer this 9-to-5 approach. There's no longer this point where if I arrive 15 minutes late, I'm going to get a disciplinary from my manager because I'm 15 minutes late. That doesn't happen. We're a much grown up world now, and a much different world. And where we are as an individual and as a collective, what we're looking for now is a better work-life balance. We've illustrated it through the whole of the pandemic that I can trust my staff to work from home, to continue to grow. The business has grown exponentially. We won Business of the Year. I won Business Leader of the Year through the pandemic. And that's a testimony to them working incredibly hard. That wasn't because I was worried about anyone through those 2 years, or recruiting someone in who's going to be able to recruit and deliver me high levels of revenue. It was about actually buying people, in recruiting individuals to the business that had similar ethoses and values to who we are today. And through us as our senior leadership team, supporting those individuals, training those individuals and getting them to a point that they can earn the kind of cash that they want to.
I want to come to that and unpack that in a minute. I think Kirsty's probably got a few questions coming in, but
we've got some really good questions.
Okay, let's take the questions now, but I want to come back to that point and pick up on it in terms of the training and development and the role of the senior and junior management team. So let's go to Kirsty.
Okay. So we've got a great question from Francis, which is, it's so easy to equate salary with billings, but how does that equate to other roles in the country that aren't direct fee earners, such as marketing or maybe admin?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. How does it relate to it? Well, I think, again, it's about what you're hoping to achieve from your business. If I think about my marketing team, I have a set target for those individuals in terms of what I want them to achieve and how they are intricate in the growth of our business. And I think for us, it's about being able to measure their successes in terms of where do we want the business to be. So the marketing team has a plan, not only through its traditional marketing, through digital marketing, social media marketing, that gives us the opportunity to be able to say how successful they're actually doing that. So therefore, it isn't going to be just on the revenue side, because we have focused very much on the billers of our recruitment world and not on the operational element, which I know is a hugely important part of who our business is. So they will be given their KPI targets to be able to achieve as well. And hopefully, through the strategy that we develop for those individuals, we can actually enjoy their successes along with the actual billing successes, the sales staff of the business as well.
Any role can have targets. Any role can have a target that it has to achieve, whatever that might be. And KPIs, metrics, whatever name you choose, but there is a definition of what success looks like for every single role. And I think that's quite important, because if you measure people and train people and develop people to hit those and smash those targets, then you've got exactly the same mentality as you've got in your client-facing people who are trying to go out and get fees in.
Absolutely.
Easier to measure, I would say.
Well, our operational team is really intricate in terms of what we've achieved, really. We've got a fantastic back office team that supports that front office client-facing team. And without them, they are the oil to the cogs, yeah? And we do sometimes forget about them, but they are treated in exactly the same way as everyone else within this business, you know? And as Mike has just rightly pointed out, those KPI and targets are put into play. And I think, you know, they achieve those because they've helped us to achieve what we want to in terms of our strategy, in terms of our growth. So everyone plays an equal part in that role.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question I've got is from Gavin, which is, does your structure mean that you bill less, your average billing per recruiter is lower than other agencies because of because you're hiring sort of potential rather than experience?
Well, no. Oh, my light's gone out.
Yeah, the other thing about Pertemps is they don't pay their electricity bill.
Sorry about this. Hang on.
They don't pay their electricity bill, or they're a very green company that have a timer on the lights, which I don't.
One or the other of those two things.
We are an incredibly green company. The light goes out if you don't move too much. Really sorry about that. Hopefully that won't happen again. No, that's not true, actually, Gavin. The simple reason behind that is because obviously as you continue to grow and you've got billers in here, like the business is 5 years old. I've got billers who have got 5 years worth of experience and are now billing substantial amounts of money and supporting the ones that are billing and have only been here for, say, 6 months. So in terms of your averaging, actually, we're above average and we're doing okay, to be honest.
That point, though, around that is that's only an issue if you've got a high turnover of staff.
It is absolutely.
Then it'll bring down the average. But if you haven't got a high turnover of staff, because that training period is relatively small, 18 months to 2 years to get up to full speed, normally, that kind of figure, and then they're full on, aren't they? And as you said to me before, you've got some very, very, let's not give away the numbers, but you have some very, very high billers in your business, impressively high.
Absolutely. And those impressively high billers are the ones that have been here for the 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And the ones who are coming up behind are aspiring to that. And what's really lovely about those billers who have got 4 or 5 years experience do value and appreciate the people that are around them, and they support them as well. And that's part of that kind of family value, that dynamic workspace that I talked about a little bit earlier. And I think, that supportive element within our business is there to be seen. And that's what I'm hoping that attraction towards our business is about, without, like I said, paying the top dollar to find these individuals coming in. Yeah. If anyone out there who has got a commission structure, you make it as aggressive as you possibly can, obviously within reason with what you can meet in terms of your financial needs. But you make an aggressive commission plan, so you attract the individuals that they feel if they're working harder and they're gaining that success, they're ultimately going to earn the cash that they want to earn. through their commission.
I think a generous payment scheme, whether that's however that's made up between base salary and commission, however you do it, but to be able to share the proceeds of the gains that people are making, I think is absolutely crucial. And like you say, it doesn't have to be tremendously aggressive, like tiny little basics. It just means that they take a reasonably good share of what they bring in. Why would you not? Because if you can keep people billing and they stay, it's amazing how much money you can make. You lose money when you lose people.
And that's the critical point, Mike. Absolutely. It's retention.
Yeah.
It's retention.
Keep the team together. Yeah. That was one of the reasons we grew our business, the first one and the second one to a certain extent. Less than 3% a year annual attrition means that the team just gets better and better and better. And if you've got to pay a little bit more and invest a little bit more to do that, well worth it, in my opinion.
And in a second, I know we're going to move on to that. I've got one last question I think is quite a good one, which you mentioned hiring potential rather than experience. Luke says he's tried, the top biller hasn't worked. So now he's looking at second jobbers. But what when you say potential, you're looking at hiring potential. What exactly, Andrew, are you talking about when you say potential?
We recruit people, Kirsty. That's what we do. We recruit individuals for who they are and their personalities and whether they fit into our ethos and whether or not we feel they are open to actually being trained and actually open to the idea of how we work things here at Pertemps. So when I look at individuals, we're looking at the potential of what they've got because we can see the value in who they are moving forward, and they fit within our world of work.
Would you take someone outside of recruitment? You would always take someone with some recruitment experience, would you?
Well, we've taken people on in the past who haven't got it, who've never been in recruitment before, because we felt that those individuals have got the right aptitude. We're a people business, so we've got to learn how to actually translate those individuals who are very keen to become recruiters. We've just actually taken 2 individuals on in our Warrington office who've got nothing to do with recruitment. But I've got a couple of really good managers up there who are basically going to be spending some time and actually developing those individuals.
Let's dig into that now, Andrew. Let's dig into that because we're limited for time. We've got about 5 minutes left before Kirsty will want to start to wrap up. And there's another question coming, I see. But let me just dig into that because the two real drivers to turn a Thierry Henry into a reasonably good player, into a star within the team, and a stress within the team, are some kind of training, coaching and development and the way the leadership team runs and how it figures. Now, you said off air that those are 2 very important things for you. Could you expand upon that a little bit? How are you going to take the diamond and polish it?
Well, we've got an excellent training program here, which is run centrally by Pertemps, and through the induction program, through every element that you could possibly want to or about to experience as a recruitment consultant. So we run those training programs on an ongoing basis, and we encourage all of our staff to do it. We encourage them to spend time understanding what the processes are. We have very experienced managers actually on the shop floor, so to speak, to support those individuals in the training, to support them when they're back on the office, to ensure that they're actually doing what was actually taught to them on the training. Training, continued professional development is something that is ongoing, that is always led really by their managers. And the senior leadership team have got a very, very strong opinion about that. They very, very strongly support that, because that is what's going to build the next building block in terms of what we're going to do moving forward. So that we're accessible as managers. I mentor individuals myself as the MD. I enjoy being and working alongside people on that shop floor, and I'm more than happy to share my experiences on an ongoing basis. But training is a key factor.
Yeah,
I've seen it too often not, Mike, where people have just gone into an office. They said, here's a phone, here's your list of candidates, here's your list of clients, go and do what you need to do. And if you've never done that before, then how do you handle objection calling? How do you handle someone who might be very good on the phone, but doesn't use the right language? There's language that needs to be taught. There's also...
So just on that there, I want to drill down on that point just one more time, then I'll come back to Kirsty. Because a lot of managers or team leaders are billers as well. They're billers, and their focus tends to be on billing because that's where they make their money. And usually they like billing. It's like a thing they do, so they're good at it, right? But what you're saying is, yeah, that's great, I don't know whether all your managers are billers, but they have to find the time, not just to sit down and look at performance. How did you do last month with their team? But actually develop them and move them forward. That's a crucial element of this, isn't it? That's a real magical part of this mix.
It's got to be, because if it doesn't, then where is that? You know what? How will that individual develop and grow? It's all very good sitting in the classroom creating that theory when they do their training courses and part of that continuous professional development, but working alongside someone that you can listen to on a call and say, that's a great call. The 1 Minute Manager. If anyone's ever read it, guys out there, go and buy a copy of the 1 Minute Manager.
Ken Blanchard, get in there, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant little book. It will take you probably 30 minutes on a tube ride to read it, but it will give you so many fantastic tips about how to deal with junior members of staff. And being able to praise that individual and just to guide them as soon as they come off the phone immediately, and to say, that was a great call because of this, and this is why I think you could be doing this call better because of that, is a great way of being able to learn and teach them. And I think
it's continual coaching then. You're not sort of saying, oh, well, come into a room now, we'll do some coaching. It's continual on-the-job coaching backed up by formal training courses offered by Pertemps. But, of course, our viewers can get formal training courses from lots of providers. If they don't have the backing of Pertemps, they can still get those access to those training courses through providers. So it's that mix of the two, training and coaching.
Absolutely. I love that. When I first started out as a trainee many moons ago, I won't tell you how many, I sat next to a lady called Belinda, who was an awesome manager, who just sat next to me and taught me everything I needed to know about recruitment in that first 6-month period. She was so diligent, so attentive, so supportive in what I was trying to achieve, and would guide me in such a wonderful manner. And that's the important element, really. That's why I'm saying, go and find yourself people who understand who we're about, not someone who thinks he knows it, who's going to come in and you're going to pay them that top dollar. That isn't what it's about. Let's build our own. Let's build those academies, whatever we actually see them in, whether it's going to be 4 or 5 people in one go or just a single individual, and grow them into what you want them to be. And follow that structure that you've actually set out for your business, valuing the current staff that you've got. The current staff that you've got is so important. Don't bring someone in and give them 10 grand more than the person who sat next to them and they've been in the job for 5 minutes.
I think we normally do a summary. I don't think we need to do one today, because I think you've just summarized it perfectly, really. I think you've just nailed it there. It is about hiring the right people and then investing in them and keeping them. And if you do that, the big numbers come afterwards, don't they? Yeah. Over to you, Kirst.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions I just wanted to throw at Andrew before we leave. So Francis has asked, do you have a scorecard on who you hire? I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I hope you do.
Francis, we do have we don't have like an official scorecard to give someone marks out of 5 or 10 or whatever the case may be, but it's a set criteria which we follow. And I think it's a very good thing to have. I think there'll be key things that you're going to want to get out of that interview. And I think it's important that you've got that crib sheet in front of you with that scorecard. And if you feel you need to score them and there's 2 or 3 different people doing it, then great. I think that's the way to go. I think another way to go actually is actually getting somebody in and just sitting them in the office for an hour or so and getting them to interact with your staff, because that's also important, because people respond differently at interview and they can sell you the dream at an interview. But actually, when they come and sit down in the office next to you, they suddenly become relaxed and their real personality comes out.
In the less enlightened times of the 90s, we used to arrange interviews for later on in the afternoon. And if we liked them, we'd take them to the pub. And for exactly the same reason, just to see what they were like with a couple of beers in them. Of course, we don't do that now because we don't approve of drinking.
The 90s were a different time. They were a different time. Okay, and then I've got one more question for you, Andrew, before we round up, which is from Gavin. You were speaking about, obviously, a lot of commitment from the managers about making their staff. So do managers get a commission override on the recruiters on their team? So is there like a compensation for the managers if they're good managers?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, good answer.
Simple answer.
Yeah, good answer.
I like a simple answer. So hopefully that was fantastic. So I think it's time for us to round up. I mean, Andrew, we've had a lot of really great stuff there. And like Mike said, I think you pretty much summed it up. You hire the right people, give them a structure that allows them to flourish and develop, and then you just let them get on with it, sort of. In a second, I'm going to come to you for the top tip. So if someone wants to hire well without paying top dollar, what's the thing? But before then, Mike, next week, I believe you and Pete, because I shall be gallivanting on a beach somewhere, are going to be talking about preparing for a downturn.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's definitely going to come. There's just 3 things that you can do now that if the downturn does come, you'll be prepared for it. And if it doesn't come, you'll just be making more money. So it's a win-win, really. So Pete and I are going to dig into that next week.
Okay, fantastic. So I would once again like to thank you, Andrew, for being such a fantastic... Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. I forgot. I need to have the top tip. I was getting all wound up, Andrew. I'm sorry. So somebody's watching this and thinking, I want to start this. What would you say is the first thing that they need to do?
I think the first thing they need to do is actually just speak to the individual. It's as simple as that. It's not a major top tip. It's speak to the individual, understand who they are and what they want. Spend some time talking with them and understanding whether or not they fit within your ethos, fit within the values of your business, whether you feel they will be able to fit nicely into the way that we as a business work. So decide.
And if you don't know those mission, vision, values, and goals, right, get them sorted. We've actually got a Mike Ames Show episode on that very thing. Kirsty will put a link to it in the comments on this post, because you've got to get that done. 100%, Andrew. Totally believe in that.
Totally. Got to. Totally.
So I'm going to say it, and Francis has very nicely said it. Thank you so much, Andrew. You've been an absolutely fantastic guest. You've had a lot of value to us. So thank you so much for attending.
And some of us will see you next week. Bye.
Great. Thank you, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye.